Hello, welcome to Sports World. Have your say with me, Amanda Davis. Coming up this week, is it a fair cop? Was Patrice Evra on the receiving end of abuse or banter?
I think both sets of fans will make magnificent adverts for the club, and both clubs can be very proud of the fans that they have here.
No love lost at Loftus Road either. Were the FA right to shake hands on a deal not to shake? 5,000 professional footballers in Britain, not one of them is gay. Really? After her uncle's experience, we talked to the woman who thinks it can't be true. And is England ready for Mourinho magic part 2? Or do you think Jose should stay mainly in Spain?
It's 1-1 just now between Libya and Senegal. We need Libya to score. We also need Equatorial Guinea to score. Come on, Libya. Come on, Equatorial Guinea.
Yeah, certainly some emotive issues that have got you going already on Facebook and Twitter this week. We'll be raising as many of your points as we can in the next hour or so. So keep them coming in to all the usual places. The team is standing by, waiting to speak to you. Send us a message or pick up the phone. Give us a call on +44 20 70 83 73 33. This week, I've got England Ladies International Sue Smith with me. She's in Sheffield. But before we go any further, let's just pause for a summary of the latest news. You're watching Sports World. Have your say. We're going to be talking about a weekend that's really tested English football's respect campaign to the limit. But it is a big evening of football at the Africa Cup of Nations with the climax of Group A. Before we go any further, let's find out what's going on. Marwan is with me in the studio here in London, watching Libya's match against Senegal. Half-time, Marwan, how is it going?
Just now it's 1-1 between Libya and Senegal. It started off great, me being Libyan, when Libya scored after 5 minutes. Iheb Abu Saifi scored. But then after 11 minutes, Senegal got a goal. It was Ndiaye who scored. Just now, nothing between the teams. It can go either way, but hopefully it's going to go the Libya way. Well, do shout when something happens, good or bad. We will be keeping an eye on you, keeping an eye on the game. But there is another match going on. Gary is based in Ghana. He's watching co-hosts Equatorial Guinea against Zambia. Zambia need a point, I think. Gary, how's that one going?
It's going well, Amanda. Hello to everybody. It's currently 0-0 between Equatorial Guinea and Zambia. They've just returned for the second half. Zambia need to win to get into the quarterfinal and make their place sure. But Equatorial Guinea have already made their place secure after winning their first 2 games, and they'd like to win this one to, as it were, avoid the big guns in Ivory Coast.
OK, well, keep us posted with what's going on. Give us a shout, give us a wave. We will come back to you, Gary, in Ghana. I've also got Sue Smith with me this week, and the fixture gods really didn't do the footballing authorities any favours this weekend. They scheduled 2 FA Cup fourth-round ties with undercurrents of racist allegations. There were victories for Liverpool and Chelsea over Manchester United and QPR, respectively. But the question we're going to be asking is, did anybody really win? Sue, did you watch either of the games? What did you make of how things panned out in the end?
Yeah, I actually watched both the games, and it's just such a shame that this weekend's football hasn't been about football. It's not been about the sport, you know, it's been about off-the-field activities, and, you know, I don't like that. It needs to be about the sport, and for me, the only people that have come away with any sort of, you know, I would say self-worth is the likes of Anton Ferdinand and, you know, Patrice Evra. You know, I think the professionalism that they've shown has been amazing. You know, I think every sort of match that they've played, you know, they've come out, they've just played football, they've got on with it, they haven't said anything, and I think that's amazing. But it's just such a shame that it's not been about football, it's been about the, you know, the antics off the field.
Well, let's welcome Andrew to the conversation, a Liverpool fan who joins us on Skype. And Wayne is a Manchester United fan and the author of the 7 Cantonars blog. Andrew, what did you make of the booing of Patrice Evra? He's not done anything wrong, has he?
Well, that's a matter of opinion of whether he's done anything wrong, but obviously Liverpool fans have got their own opinion on the situation. But the one thing I would say is that I thought that the vitriol that was going to be aimed at him yesterday would have been worse, and I was quite surprised it was toned down. It was booing, but which player hasn't been booed at Anfield if they play for Man United? As I say, for me, it wasn't as bad as I honestly expected it would be.
Wayne, sorry, what do you make of that comment?
Well, to be honest, I think it was worse than what was painted there. Thought it was pretty bad, the abuse that Evra got, especially considering he has done nothing wrong. I don't know. For me, Liverpool have painted themselves into a corner where their reaction to the charge in the first place kind of provoked the situation, and now they're faced with a situation where they've got to repair the damage that was done yesterday.
I have to completely agree there. I think, you know, Kenny Dalglish has had chance after chance to try and put this to bed. You know, he again was interviewed yesterday. Could he have come out and said, yes, we do feel sorry for Evra, that shouldn't be the case, he shouldn't be getting booed, he's done nothing wrong, and would that have just put this to bed, basically? But, you know, the way that Liverpool have dealt with it hasn't been the right way.
Yeah, completely agree. For me now, the situation as it is that Liverpool and the FA have got a responsibility. Liverpool have already shown that they're not willing to accept responsibility for their actions, and the FA now have got to step in and do something. I don't know what that's going to be. Personally, I mean, they've been drawn at home to play Brighton in the next round, I believe, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the FA do a sanction, perhaps play it behind closed doors or something.
Yeah, I think the only positive thing that we can take away from it is the fact that it was, you know, there was one idiot. You know, I think that a lot of the fans were actually, you know, they were pretty respectful, you know, watched the game and they didn't boo and they didn't do the racist chanting. But, you know, we have to clamp down on that. We can't even have one or a section of fans. It needs to be everybody, I feel. And I totally agree. I think the FA can possibly do something.
Yeah, like you said, one is too many.
Without a doubt.
Andrew, what do you make of how Dalglish has handled it all?
It could have been handled better, there's no doubt about that. I mean, I think everybody knows that, I think the club know that. And I think it was Liverpool that said that they wanted a conversation or dialogue with Manchester United regarding it at a higher level. But from what I can gather, that was rebuffed. So, at the end of the day, the club took the ban, so they've accepted the responsibility for it. He's currently banned, and that's where it is at the moment.
Do you think that Kenny Dalglish could have done things better?
He could have done them differently, which probably would have ended up being better. But you've got to take both sides of the story, and whether it's a social, demographical review, like Suarez said it was. But at the other end, the other side of it, was it a Sadaka that Patrice Evra called Luis Suarez? Now, I always thought the rules were discrimination against the colour of your skin and your country of origin. Now, if you're going to call the Sadaka, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is a South American rat, then in his country, when he calls Negro, which is a standard, pretty commonly used term, it shouldn't be, but that's the society. So I think the main problem the Liverpool fans have got is the fact that Evra has admitted to starting it by insulting Suarez for being South American or along them lines, yet nothing's happened, and Suarez has took the brunt of the ban.
Let me just bring you what Kenny Dalglish said. He really wasn't impressed when a journalist asked him if he was disappointed that Evra was booed at yesterday's game. He said, "Are you joking? Why would I be disappointed for Evra? I've been booed. The fans are entitled to support their team. I've got no problem with that. And if there's a bit of banter between the teams, that's brilliant." I don't think there was anything untoward. Andrew, calling somebody a lying asterisk, untoward?
It was untoward at the end of the day. He's not lied, he's said what he said, but as I say, I personally, I wasn't singing that myself. At the end of the day, all I was concentrating on was Liverpool beating Man United, which they did in the end, and it was a good game of football, which seems to be spoiled by the fact that this keeps being brought up. Some idiots in the crowd doing some kind of action, or I don't know what it was, I've not even seen the clip. But you're always going to get one, and you're going to get more in some cases. At the end of the day, I've heard David Beckham Gary Neville and various other Man United fans have worse songs sung about them. I seem to remember the Chelsea fans singing "You Know What You Are" to Anton Ferdinand. Well, if that would have been Liverpool from what it is at the moment, everybody would have been over it. The bullet being sent into the post, if that had been Liverpool, then it'd have been another stick to beat us with. At the end of the day, I've heard worse against other players than calling somebody a lying.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about that game at Loftus Road in a minute. Do you think more has been made of this because it's Liverpool against United?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the generation of Sky football, isn't it? Everything's over-exaggerated. Every decision, every action on the pitch is over-analysed. In years have gone by, this would have been done, dealt with and finished. But when you've got Sky Sports repeatedly saying the same thing 7, 8, 9 times a day on the rerun of the feed, it's bound to get publicity. And at the end of the day, if you give publicity to the idiots who do make silly chants or make actions, then they've won and they've got the bit of fame, for want of a better word.
Yeah, actually, Prince Golden Addington has sent us a message on Facebook saying the issue of racism is being hyped up by the press. The booing of Patrice Evra could happen to any footballer, given the acrimony before the match. Let's just hear a little bit more from what Kenny Dalglish had to say.
I think both sets of fans will make magnificent adverts for the club, and both clubs can be very proud of the fans that they have here. There was a good wee bit of banter between both fans, which is brilliant. They didn't want to take that away, but I think in the main, I think they were fantastic, and I think the players were a great credit to that as well.
So that was the view of Kenny Dalglish after the game at Anfield. It's all just a little bit of banter. What do you think? We're going to be getting more reaction to Sue and the rest of our guests in just a couple of minutes. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Sports World. Have your say. The final games of the Group A at the Africa Cup of Nations. Let's get the latest. Marwan, watching Libya's game against Senegal. How's it going?
It's still 1 each. It's getting a bit physical now. There hasn't really been any serious action on goal, but it's just getting a bit physical. It can still go either way.
Well, Libya hoping that Equatorial Guinea, the co-host already qualified, are going to do them a favour. Gary is in Ghana watching the Equatorial Guinea game against Zambia. Any news to update us with, Gary?
Nope, Amanda, there's just 56 minutes gone and it's still 0-0. Both sides are still feeling each other. And as it stands, Equatorial Guinea will have 7 points if it remains like this. Zambia are going to have 4 points, meaning that they will qualify as the second best team. And Senegal will have 1 point if what Marwan is saying stays like that. And Libya will have 2 points and will also go home. So if it stays like this, Equatorial Guinea and Zambia will go as first and second, respectively, from Group A.
OK, well, don't hesitate to shout if anything happens. We will be watching and listening for your reaction. Let's go back to the issue of racism and were there really any winners this weekend after the games at Anfield and Loftus Road. Lots of you have been getting in touch with us. Emmanuel has tweeted using the hashtag SWHYS. I personally think football clubs should be punished regarding the behaviour of their fans. It's all about collective responsibility. Lakshmirian tweeted, I think racism is definitely prevalent in football to the same extent as it is in any other sport. Sue Smith is with me. Sue, it's quite interesting, the views of Andrew there, the Liverpool fan, and the views that they're all being victimised at Anfield. Do you agree with that?
Not at all. I have to totally disagree. You know, I think racism...
Putting your blue colours aside,
well, of course, yeah. Yeah, that's probably why I totally disagree. But no, I just... You know, we can't have racism in football, no matter what, whether it's, you know... Patrice Evra has done absolutely nothing wrong and yet he's getting booed by Liverpool fans. I don't understand that, you know. Of course, as players, we all get booed. You know, we do a bad tackle, you get booed by the away fans. That's going to happen. But when it's from a, you know, a racism point of view, I don't see where they're coming from, and I can't condone any of the actions that Liverpool have done. And I keep saying it, but I think they could have done more to have prevented this. And you know, again, if Kenny Dalglish, listening to his interview, if he'd have come out and sort of said, yes, you know, I do feel sorry for Evra, this shouldn't happen. Will that stop the fans from doing it in the future? Potentially, yes, because they would listen to their manager. So I just think that they've just dealt with it completely wrong.
Yeah, and Wayne, you know, Patrice Evra followed the football rules and regulations. He reported what he felt was a racist incident, and yet he's the one who's almost being victimised. Do you think it's going to put people off in future? Yeah,
well, why wouldn't it? Because look at the abuse what he's suffered ever since. He's been made out to be the victim in it, villain, sorry, and Suarez has been made out to be a martyr. Do you know? At the end of the day, that's exactly what it is going to do. It will put players off reporting it in the future. As far as Liverpool have behaved in it, in the old case, it's been a PR disaster from start to finish. Basically, at no point have they assumed responsibility or accepted it. Any apology that they have issued has never been directly to Evra. There's been various stages throughout the case where they could have apologised for any offence caused. If they had done that right at the start, it would have avoided a lot of mess. And it's difficult to see where they go from here because they have got to make an apology at some stage. And what are they going to allow, like, continuous incidents like this to happen? Because it's not just in Suarez's alleged insult to Evra. You've got the incident in the Oldham game and what happened yesterday as well. It's very unpleasant. And at some point, you would think, you know, Liverpool have got to take accountability for it. Well, talking of PR disasters or incidents that have created a lot of discussion, well, let's move on to Loftus Road with the decision to get rid of the handshake ahead of QPR's game against Chelsea, the first meeting of Anton Ferdinand with John Terry. Let's welcome Athnas, an Arsenal fan actually based in Nairobi. What was your view on that decision to get rid of the handshake, Athnas?
Well, thanks a lot. I think the decision to not to have the handshake was, in the first place, a wrong decision because I believe people have to embrace each other, and once somebody has wronged, he has to accept that he has wronged. And I believe yesterday's incident, I think something could have happened. I think they could have shaken hands, and I think. Said somebody like Terry to say I'm sorry to Anton Ferdinand, but I think it was the other way around. People just trying to run away from issues, which is the issue. And if we are to address the issue of racism, I think we just have to face it, that it's there, and we have to ask clubs to take action other than avoiding issues.
Sue, the handshake is very much a part of the women's game as well. What did you make of that yesterday? It kind of makes a mockery of the respect campaign, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. You know, I think the FA have now made a precedent where they'll have to do that if there's any controversial thing that's happened, you know, in that week. They'll have to just scrap the handshake, which is something that they've said continually. You know, the respect campaign, everybody should shake hands before the game, after the game. You know, you shake the official's hand, and they've made such a big deal of that. To suddenly just scrap it because of one incident, I think is completely wrong. And, you know, John Terry's a big boy. I think he could have coped if Anton Ferdinand hadn't have, you know, shook his hand and the rest of the teammates. It's about the respect campaign, and like you said, they've made a total mockery of that whole campaign.
Lots of you have been talking about this on Facebook and Twitter. Paul Kenny says on Facebook, the FA took that stance because Terry is England's captain. It's a bad precedent. It's a shame. Mazda3237 has tweeted saying, this is putting players above the whole game. Football is about all the players, not just the select few. Kel Bacon using the hashtag SWHYS just makes everything worse, just like sweeping under the carpet or turning a blind eye. Andy Rush on Twitter, I've always believed it to be a daft concept. A handshake means nothing if I'm looking to win at any cost. And I suppose there is that, isn't there? Should you force a player who is facing a player in court in 3 days' time to do something he really fundamentally doesn't believe in?
I think that's got to be exactly down to the player himself. So I think Anton had to make that decision. You know, did he want to shake his hand? If he wanted to snub him, that's fine, you know, and I think the rest of his teammates, I think that's where the FA were a little bit concerned. Will the whole of the QPR team, you know, snub John Terry, which I think they probably would. They would want to back their, you know, their captain. But like I said, John Terry's a big boy. I think he could have coped with that. And, you know, if he has done what he, you know, what alleged he has done, then, you know, does he deserve that?
Athnas, what do you think about the fact that John Terry was on the pitch anyway? Is there some, do you think, well, would you agree with the people who say Chelsea should have dropped him and not even been put in this position at all?
I think I was just wondering yesterday, because if I just assumed if Anton Ferdinand was the captain yesterday, what could have happened? They could not have tossed, they could not have shaken hands. I think Terry is a Chelsea player. The coach has a right to make him into the team, but I think we are running away from the problem, and it has to be addressed, because now it's becoming totally a disgrace. Because you see, when you cannot even allow a handshake from both teams, it believes that we have not accepted that this is a problem. But I think on the side of Chelsea, Terry is their captain. I think the coach has the right to field him, so long as he's fit to play a match.
OK, Athnas, thank you very much for now. Sharma Praz has tweeted, football's supposed to be about the game. Quite shocking, a mere handshake is getting such coverage. You can see Amal Fashanu just in the corner there. We're going to be talking to her in just a few minutes. She's been asking why no gay player has followed in her uncle's footsteps to come out openly in the professional game. Stay with us. Hello, you're watching Sports World Have Your Say with me, Amanda Davis. Plenty of emotive issues. This week we're talking racism, homophobia and the Africa Cup of Nations. Before we go any further, we have to go back to Gary in Ghana. Zambia have scored.
Yep, Zambia have scored. A lot of emotion because the Equatorial Guinea crowd have gone silent. There was a throw-in from the left. A pass went to Chris Kasongo, the captain of Zambia. He angled it nicely past the left side of the Equatorial Guinea keeper, and it's 1-0 to Zambia. As it stands, Zambia go through as the second best placed team. Actually, they leapfrog Equatorial Guinea if it goes like this. They have 7 points now.
Thank you, Gary. Don't forget to shout and wave if something else happens. So good news for Zambia fans, bad news for Marwan and Libyan fans, though we'll be getting more on that in a little while. But before we go any further, let's just get a summary of the latest news. Hello, you're watching Sports World. Have your say. We've heard from Gary, who's watching the Equatorial Guinea against Zambia game in the Africa Cup of Nations. So Zambian fans celebrating, but I'm afraid the same can't be said for Marwan, the Libyan fan who's in the studio with me. Your flag fell down when that goal went in.
It's a bit symbolic. Thankfully, it's still 1 each. We came close. Ahmed Zawi had a shot, but it was deflected and the goalkeeper managed to save it. It can go either way this game. Both teams seem as though they're up for it, but no one's actually shooting on goal. So we'll wait and see. Hopefully Libya can get a goal, but the other game is the big one just now.
Well, it has to be said, there's not many people seem to be watching it in the stadium, this one. What will it be like in Libya with people watching this?
I think they'll all be glued to the TV sets waiting for hope. But I think people are realistic. It's good for us to be there. We're not used to these tournaments. The last time we qualified was 2006. Oh, sorry, I just saw something there. I thought it was going to be a goal. No, thankfully it wasn't. It was Senegal attacking. We haven't been. It was 2006 was the last time we were there, and then before that it was 1982 when it was in Libya. So it's absolutely great just to be there. Hopefully we can finish off with a win. Doesn't look like we're going to qualify, but if we can get a win, that'll be nice. And
particularly given everything that's happened in terms of the qualifying campaign and you guys getting here with everything going on politically.
Yeah, the qualifying campaign, as in it was unbelievable. Started off just normal, and then the revolution started. Two of the games were played during in neutral grounds, and it was really tough. And then the switch over came at the end. They had 2 games they needed to do well after after it switched sides from like Gaddafi's rule to the rebel control. And then they managed to get what they needed to do. They needed to beat Mozambique. They met Mozambique in Egypt, and then they drew with Zambia in Zambia. So it's been a remarkable campaign considering everything that went on. Libya actually only let in 1 goal during the qualifiers. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to keep the defences solid during the tournament, but anyway, it's good to be there, and hopefully we'll be there next year because there's another African Nations Cup in 2013.
Indeed there is, yeah. Well, keep us posted. We're into the second half. We've also got with us this week Sue Smith, the England Ladies International, and Amal Fashanu is also with me. We've been talking about the Respect campaign in English football in terms of racism, but there's a bit of debate going on about the issue of homosexuality in football. It's been brought back into the spotlight thanks to Amal. She's the niece of the late Justin Fashanu, who's a gay footballer who killed himself in 1998. And she's been asking why no gay player has followed in her uncle's boots and spoken out about their sexuality in more than 20 years. Amal, what was the biggest thing to strike you in the making of your programme?
I think the biggest thing was the fact that, you know, I'm in fashion world, and in the fashion world it's almost like, you know, gays, I have a lot of gay friends, you know, I see gay people all the time. It's nothing, you know, strange or different. And I think whilst making the documentary, I realised just how homophobic football really is, and how maybe behind in some way we are in regards to other industries.
Sue, how much of an issue or not is it in the women's game?
In the women's game, it's a lot more accepting. You know, I think if you're a gay female footballer, you could come out, you know, quite easily. And I think, you know, is that down to there's not as much media attention, media hype? Is it the fact that we're not playing in front of 30,000 people, you know, chanting homophobic chants, if you like? So I think it is a lot more accepting. In the men's game, I still I can't believe that there hasn't been another male footballer that has actually come out as gay. I still cannot believe that.
It has to be said, though, having posted on our Facebook page earlier today that we were going to be talking about this issue, the level of hatred from around the world kind of makes you understand why people don't want to talk about it. Was that your experience, Amal?
Definitely. I mean, I think people speak for themselves, and I've read quite a few comments and heard quite a few things, which I'm just thinking, are we really in 2012? Can people really be thinking this? I mean, do I care if, you know, a footballer of my dreams or whatever, you know, has sex with men or women? Do I really care? Is it my business?
That's exactly what I was going to say. We are in 2012, and I think people sort of forget that, you know, there's the whole, you know, racism row, but, you know, do we need to maybe, you know, step up this about, you know, homophobic comments and chants, and do we need to maybe step that up in football to make it easier for male footballers to, if they want to come out, then let them do that?
That's the thing. I don't even say, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, this is something personal, this is something, you know, that you can keep to yourself. Fair enough. All I'm saying is, why not create the environment to make it safe if someone really wants to come out, to be like, fine, I'm coming out.
Do you think it's anything to do with, like, you know, the FA or UEFA, you know, the hierarchy, that, you know, they're still a little bit behind the time?
Well, yeah, I interviewed John Amici, and he said to me that obviously because the board is made up of archaic, older white men, this may be the reason why it's not moving forward, because they don't really want to. I don't personally know, but I do think that the FA have definitely not done enough to condition, you know, for a gay player to come out and feel safe.
Yeah, well, I also read that a lot of the agents now sort of say to the players, you know, if you are, don't come out, because that's not going to help your transfer fee, that's not going to help your wages. So again, it's not creating that environment that, you know, they want to get the best wages they can, they want to go to the best club, and if that's going to stop them, you know, obviously that's another reason why they won't come out.
Definitely. Max Clifford said to me that, you know, the world of football, it revolves around money. And, you know, if a player does come out and that involves, you know, him losing deals, contracts, fans, and in all money, it's not going to be a good thing. So they are going to recommend them to stay in for their own good.
Let me bring you a couple of posts that we've received. Folkstronic has actually posted on HuffPost saying the lack of openly gay footballers speaks volumes about the shame associated with homosexuality in the game. And Baz in Liverpool has tweeted saying, why label people like this? Sexuality is a private and personal matter. Wayne is back with us. Wayne, would it matter to you if one of Manchester United's players came out as being gay?
Well, why would it? You know, what they do and what people do in their personal life is none of my business. You know, I turn up on a Saturday or a Sunday, as the case may be these days, to, you know, cheer on the team to score goals. What they do in their personal life is none of my business, and what's been said before I came on is completely right. You know, there's a culture around football. We saw yesterday, probably the common culture around football supporters at the moment is probably, we're not ready to accept gay footballers coming out, because
I was going to say, there's, you know, the hatred that has been aimed at Patrice Evra for bringing up the issue of racism has seen him, you know, get a lot of abuse, and it has affected his game. If a player was to come out as being gay, I mean, frankly, you dread to think what abuse he would get.
Exactly, you do dread to think that, and the thing is, you kind of hope that there are no high-profile cases this season. I do sort of see and agree with the opinion that, you know, it should be brought out into the open, and players shouldn't be afraid to do it, and we should be embracing it. But while the society and the culture is the way that it is, who wants to cultivate that kind of hatred? You know, nobody does, and who wants to see, like, players come under that kind of criticism just because of their personal choices? Or
let me just stop you there, Wayne, and get a word from Athnas. What would be your view if one of Arsenal's players came out as gay?
Thank you. I think, I think it will depend with what the player thinks, what will be the reaction of the fans in general.
Athnas, I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to butt in there, but we will come back to you in just a couple of minutes. We're just going to take a little bit break, but be back with you shortly on Sports World. Have your say. We have to head back to Marwan. There has been a cheer from the other side of the studio. What is happening in the Africa Cup of Nations?
Well, Libya just scored. Abu Saifi scored again. That's his second goal today. Libya are now winning 2-1, but we need a favour from Equatorial Guinea. We need a miracle, but I believe in miracles.
Well, let's find out. Gary is watching that one for us. Gary, any chance of a miracle?
Sorry. There isn't any chance of a miracle. We are 85 minutes on, and it's Zambia 1-0, Equatorial Guinea. Both teams are still playing quite well, and it's getting a bit physical, just a bit physical, but it's still Zambia 1-0, Equatorial Guinea.
OK, well, keep the faith. We will be back in just a few minutes. So I've got to go back to Athnas because we were talking about homophobia in football before the break. I rudely had to cut him off. Athnas, what was the point you were making? Oh, I'm afraid we haven't got Athnas with us. I think he's back. Athnas, it's your moment. I apologise.
OK, it's OK.
Athnas, what was the point you were making?
OK, I was saying if a national player comes out and says he's gay, I think first of all he has to consider what is going to be the reaction of the fans, the Arsenal fans, and probably if what are going to be the consequences, because coming out in the open and claiming you're gay and you're playing for a top team like Arsenal, I think the consequences are quite big, because I think the fans and the management of the team, I think they'll be in a shock, something like that. But it's up to the player to think what are the consequences are, because somebody to come out and claim he's gay and he's playing for a top club in the world, it's a miracle, I think.
Yeah, well, Shivam LM has actually tweeted using the at BBC Sportswise handle, saying no one's come out yet. Perhaps if somebody does and the reaction is good, then perhaps more will. Amal Fashanu is with us. Amal, what was the biggest obstacle in your opinion? Is it people concerned about the reaction of other players or of fans and the wider footballing community?
I think my biggest concern of all was, why are players scared to, come in front of the camera and fight against a form of discrimination? No one's asking them to come, out and say they're gay. No one's asking, it's just show support so we can create the environment for a gay player to come out if they want to. Why not do that? That's what I find hard to believe. A young, 23-year-old player doesn't want to speak about a form of discrimination. Why? Why does it affect you? What's the fear?
Did you find any positives to take out of this? Is any progress being made?
Yes, I definitely think that the FA are getting more involved, and I think that this year they'll probably tackle homophobia, in a more effective way. And I just think that the positive that I found from the documentary is that there are people, who do support this, and there are people who are happy with having a teammate, who's gay in professional football. And if you are gay and you're a professional footballer, it doesn't concern the private life. I don't understand the whole concern around your private life. Why aren't you concerned if he doesn't score goals? That should be the main concern, not who you sleep with at night.
Yeah, I think backing that up, it also, now in stadiums before a game, they also say we want no racist chants, we also want no homophobic chants. So I think that's a progression, because it never used to be that. It just used to be the racism side. So yeah, at least that is a progression. And I think also a lot of top names in football, the likes of Joey Barton and people have been tweeting about that and sort of showing their support. So I think that will help as well.
I was very, very pleased to interview Joey Barton, and his reaction. I wasn't expecting it, and it was something very, very, joyful that I found, because he was openly speaking about it. He's got a gay uncle, and there's no problem. He's a macho man playing for Millwall, and brilliant. He's speaking about homosexuality in football, so what?
Let me welcome Patricia to the conversation, a Real Madrid fan. Patricia, what do you make of this? How would a gay player be treated in Spain?
I don't think there's much issue in Spain regarding a player's sexuality. I think the press hasn't really been interested. They haven't shown any interest in these things, really. So I guess it would be a small story if one came out, but it probably wouldn't be criticized.
Okay, well, I'm glad you've you're here with us, I should say, because a story that's really brought a smile to my face on Sunday. Talk of the return of Jose Mourinho to the English Premier League. He says he's tired of the situation at Real Madrid. He wants to leave at the end of the season. Patricia, what do you think of that?
I personally wouldn't be too sad to see him leave. I really don't think he shares the same values as Real Madrid club as a whole.
But so, he's taken you 7 points clear at the top of La Liga. You're unbeaten in the Champions League so far this season. What's he done wrong?
I think it's more of his attitude towards other smaller teams, towards Barcelona, his main rival. So I think being ahead in the Liga is it's really good. He's definitely been good points-wise. But I think we have one main rival, who is Barcelona, and he's not only been shown that it's really difficult to beat them, but he's also shown not much of a sportsmanship towards this match.
But as he said, he's managed to take you 7 points clear of the team that everybody says is the best in the world. Loads of people have been getting in touch with us on Twitter and Facebook about this one. Saeed Imran says he'd like to see Jose Mourinho as a toilet cleaner at Barcelona next. Andy Dukamabu says he'd be a great coach at Manchester United, I think, though we know that Sir Alex can't call quit even when old age is catching up with him. Andrew McCarker says, why not back at Chelsea? And Simon Wilkes has written on teamtalk.com, whenever Mourinho does return to these shores, he'll be welcomed with open arms by fans and pundits alike. Sue, what do you think of the idea that he's heading back to England?
Do you know, I think Jose Mourinho, you either love him or you hate him, don't you? And for me, I absolutely love him. I think he's brilliant, and I think he's a character that we need in the Premier League. You know, at the minute, I know he's not happy at Real Madrid. He doesn't think that the players are listening to him or responding to him. You know, talking of the Barcelona game, I think he wanted them to keep a high line, and he wanted them to press the defence, and the players went against what he'd said. So, you know, I know he wants to get out, and I think he'd be great for Manchester United. I think, you know, obviously, he's probably the only person that thinks he could take Alex Ferguson's mantle and do just as good a job, if not better. He's got that confidence and that arrogance about him. And I can't help but really like him and think he'd be great to be back in the Premier League.
Yeah, a lot of people saying this might be the moment that Sir Alex says, you know what, this is the man who is worthy of taking my place. Amal is a Real Madrid fan. What was your reaction to these stories this morning, Amal?
I personally really like Mourinho, but I do think that, you know, once managers and players aren't getting on, I just don't think it's a good sign. And I think it might be, you know, a good time for him to leave, maybe.
Sue, we've also got to talk about somebody else who is apparently heading back to these shores, Carlos Tevez. Can you really see anybody taking him on?
I don't know what's happening. You know, I think Man City, they're trying to teach him a lesson. I think they've outpriced him for a start. You know, they've put a 25 million price tag on him, and nobody seems to afford him or seems to be able to afford him. You know, I know he thought he was going to Milan. I think Milan thought that they were getting him, and, you know, and that hasn't happened. So I don't know where he's going to go. I know there's talks of him going to West Ham, which, you know, for West Ham, they've gained in a fantastic player, but do they want everything else that goes with him? I'm not too sure.
OK, well, I can see some handshakes going on at the Africa Cup of Nations, the final games in Group A, a last chance to make it through to the quarter-finals. Gary has been watching the Equatorial Guinea game against Zambia. Gary, what has happened?
It's currently full-time. The game is over. Zambia have won 1-0. Chris Katongo with the goal, and it separates the two sides. It means then that Zambia have 7 points. Equatorial Guinea have 6 points.
So it is Equatorial Guinea who will be playing the Ivory Coast, a big next match for them.
It looks like it, because don't forget the Ivory Coast are yet to play their final group game as well in a couple of days' time.
OK, well, Marwan has been watching the other game in that group, Libya against Senegal. A victory for Libya, but not the full result you'd have been hoping for, Marwan.
It was going to be tough. We knew the other game was going to be extremely tough for it to happen, but we've won. It's a good way to end the African Nations Cup and puts us in good stead for next year's one. Hopefully we'll be there again and do better this time.
And will you be watching the rest of the tournament?
Yep, I'll be watching the rest of the tournament. I think it's going to be between Ivory Coast, Ghana and Tunisia. I've given you quite a few teams there.
Gary, it's Ghana are in the hunt, according to Marwan. What do you think?
Oh, it's difficult to say otherwise, because, I mean, from the way they played in the first game, which wasn't too convincing, to the way they played yesterday against Mali, you know, it was efficient, but it was a win nonetheless. And in the
Gary, thank you very much. Marwan, thank you very much. Sue, thank you very much. Amal, thank you very much. And to all of you for sending in your messages. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Goodbye.